We all have a threshold, a pain barrier, a line in the sand, the point where sitting on the sidelines and quietly observing is no longer an option. I've reached that point. Welcome to Life in Perspective. I'm Joseph Yeager, and this is another Perspective on Life. For most, 2020 was a year to forget, and 2021 was supposed to be a year of hope and resurgence. Instead, it's one disaster after another, and the constant barrage from your leadership team, if one can call it that, Mr. President, to shove conditions and mandates down our throats has gone too far. Before I continue, please consider subscribing to the channel by clicking the subscribe link below. You may also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. There may not be riots in the streets, yet crime is up exponentially from last year. Anti-Semitism and anti-Asian sentiment are up at highly disturbing rates compared to 2020. Businesses trying to get back on their feet are incessantly being subjected to ridiculous mandates to restrict their ability to do so. Some schools run by school boards whose members have no kids at the school or have kids at all are setting rules against parents' wishes in the name of public safety. Not to mention attempting to inject, no pun intended, undesirable additions to the academic curriculum. $85 billion worth of military equipment bought with our tax dollars was just handed over to a terrorist regime that will undoubtedly use it against us, not to mention enrich itself by selling a good portion of it to our sworn enemies, not because they need it, but because they will now have access to top secret technology. Then again, according to you, our enemies are supposedly very professional, so maybe they'll handle the situation responsibly. Look, I realize that the United States, the wealthiest and most powerful nation in history, not for long at the rate we're going, by the way, is supposed to be generous to and a protector of nations that legitimately need the help and protection. Somehow, however, we seem to lose sight of who we're helping, as our southern border crisis clearly demonstrates, and our allies find themselves unable to trust us because of our public display of flirtation with their biggest threats, and now our diminished standing as a military power. I wonder if the whole falling asleep on the job, not answering questions at press conferences, and checking the time while pretending to honor our fallen heroes is all an act to distract us from what's really going on in the hope that we will just go away and obey. Well, it's not working, but as the famous saying goes in your circle, what difference at this point does it make? I guess it's easier to give free healthcare, education, housing, and green cards to illegal felons and unskilled workers and buy their vote than to invest in opportunities for the legal citizens who are unemployed. It makes more sense to pay people to stay home so they don't produce anything while still consuming an ever-diminishing supply chain and becoming lazy and entitled. Is that what land of opportunity now represents? And why stop at taxing the rich when you can also have banks spy on their own customers and report to the IRS? I guess every little bit adds up when you have a $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill that will likely bring an already fragile economy to its knees while lining the pockets of a select few. How about sending reinforcements to the border to better manage the incessant flow of illegal immigrants instead of suggesting to use the entire law enforcement community to hunt down fake vaccine passports? That's what you call a good use of already reduced, thanks to you no less, law enforcement resources? And besides, if they do as you ask, all this administration of woke fools will do is yell police brutality and defund the police the moment law enforcement officers do their job. There are far more pressing crimes they need to attend to, many of which are a result of your failed leadership. Don't you get it? There is high demand for vaccine passports because many people don't want to take it. What goes into one's bloodstream is, always has been, and will remain a personal choice. To publicly say that this is now a pandemic of the unvaccinated and that the vaccinated should be angry at them is not helping curtail the division you promised to bridge. If that's what leadership for all Americans, even the ones that didn't vote for you, is, you just proved the ones that didn't right. I sympathize with those who lost a loved one to COVID. I did too, and he was in a vulnerable demographic and mere days away from receiving the vaccine. For him, it would have been great, but my friends and relatives who certainly did not enjoy the experience all recovered and are just fine. Some chose to be vaccinated still, and some chose not to. Their choice, their reasons. Unlike you, Mr. President, I respect that. Of course, no infringement on liberty can be complete without a continuous attempt to censor free speech and chip away at our right to keep and bear arms. Because as history has shown time and time again, there is no better way to control a population than by controlling the narrative and disarming them. So please, spare me the rhetoric about public safety and gun violence being an imaginary health crisis, because you just created a real one, exponentially worse, by giving away $85 billion worth of weapons to terrorists who will gladly and likely use it against us, our allies, and the citizens you left at their mercy. Did you require them to undergo universal background checks? Are they prohibited from using high-capacity magazines? And you wonder why we need a rifle behind every blade of grass? Or maybe you expect us to fight back with a double-barreled shotgun. Come on, man! If that's your idea of keeping us safe, I'll hold on to my gun. At least I paid for it. And if I choose to give it away, it will definitely be to a more deserving recipient. What gives me hope is our Constitution and its many champions on both sides of the aisle. At this day and age, it clearly demonstrates the foresight our forefathers, who were no saints themselves, had to keep the people free and make the role of government to serve the people and protect that freedom. It doesn't favor one party over another, which is why phrases such as Congress shall make no law and shall not be infringed are included and apply to everyone. It is well aware of human nature's tendency to try and misuse it. That is clearly the case today, and why we look more and more like the divided states of America. I don't blame you alone for this division and abuse, but you have made it far worse, and as the current commander-in-chief, the buck stops with you. It's time to look around you and come to terms with the fact that when a group of politicians with decades of experience each run a country to the ground at the rate that you do, it's time for them to step down. Because to restore our identity, pride, and standing will take leaders who, however imperfect, love this country, honor its Constitution, and serve the people. Who don't kiss our enemies' asses, play identity politics, censor free speech, and leave people behind. Who do care about what difference it makes, and who would rather die free and forgotten than be remembered for selling out. The late President John F. Kennedy once said, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." If you ever love this country, the best thing you can do for it now is gather your posse and resign. We, the people, want our country back. Please like, subscribe, and share this video, and let me know what topics you would like my perspective on in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.